So thank you, Victor, and thank you, Lynn. It's a real honor to be invited to the Dalai Lama Center. The Dalai Lama has been one of my heroes, as he is for so many people. Such an inspiring human being. I'm going to talk about wisdom tonight, and then how we can nurture wisdom in schools. And I have two credentials for talking about wisdom. One is that I became a grandfather, and two, that I'm a senior. I turned 67 last summer. So I think that gives me some credentials. Those are the kind of credentials you need to talk about wisdom, rather than any kind of academic. I'd actually be kind of terrified to have a lot of academics talk about wisdom, because there's a book that came out about 4 years ago by the former dean of Harvard College. And he actually wrote in this book, it's called Excellence Without Soul. And he actually writes in that book that Harvard does not teach the students to make them wise. So if Harvard doesn't create, or wisdom is not a goal of Harvard, then where is it a goal? And also in that book, they talk about the image of a student today. And the image that they have in that book is the student is a brain on a stick. A brain on a stick, not a whole human being. But that's basically the image that has been promoted to some extent by our governments. And that is not the image that they have in Bhutan, which they are aspiring to develop whole human beings. So I also wanted to quote Matthew Fox, who quoted a Native American elder. He said, "Only a madman thinks with his head." And then Fox goes on to write, I might add, only a mad civilization thinks with its head, or educates people to think with their heads. A healthy individual and a healthy education system learn to think with the heart as well as with the head. Such a civilization thinks wisely. And the ancients talked about developing what they called the thinking heart. So compassion, but a wise compassion. And again, I think that should be the ultimate goal of our schools, wisdom and compassion. So what is wisdom? To me, I'm going to talk about three things, and I'm just offering my understanding. So one is insight. Insight into the nature of things. A glimpse into how things are. So two examples of how things are from this perspective is, one is how things are deeply interconnected at all levels of the cosmos. And that interconnection is, again, articulated by the ecologists and by science, but also in spirituality terms about a relationship between our thoughts and our actions. So in the Bible, they talk about, as a person thinketh, so he or she is. And in Buddhism, they have this phrase, or this set of sayings that I read to my students in almost every class. The thought manifests as the word manifests as the deed develops into habit, and the habit hardens into character. So watch the thought and its ways with care, and let it spring from love, born out of respect for all beings. So seeing the relationship between our thoughts and our behavior, and trying to see at the very root of our thoughts, and when they become thoughts of grasping or aversion, that we can watch that and hopefully change them to thoughts of compassion. And another insight into the nature of things, that everything is changing. Everything is impermanent. And so the spiritual, we are changing, we are aging, the earth is changing. And so, again, sort of the spiritual connection of that is that Hinduism talks about non-attachment. You can't be grasping or holding on to things, because they are going to be changing. And if you are holding on, you're going to suffer. So that insight, again, can help us in gaining some wisdom. And seeing that we are part of a changing, evolving cosmos leads to humility. And humility is the second, I think, aspect of wisdom. And humility not meaning a demeaning kind of humility. In fact, actually seeing that we have kind of a special kind of place within the cosmos, that we have some kind of unique role. But always within nature, and the Tao Te Ching is very wonderful about this kind of sense, right? And one quotation from the Tao Te Ching, the Coffin translation, says, "Know your position and understand the mother being nature, seeing ourselves in the mother or in nature or in the earth." And again, I think human beings, we have a hard time with this. Animals do better. And I just read a book called The Wisdom of Donkeys. I highly recommend this book. It's by a poet or a novelist who took a trip through southern France with a donkey. And it changed his life. Because the donkey had qualities of presence, of patience, of being actually mindful. And so, again, you can see animals know their place in the cosmos. There's no confusion. But we are very confused as human beings. We have forgotten how to be in the cosmos in an unconfused way. So nature can help us see that, and particularly confronting the mystery in nature that leads to a sense of not knowing. And again, in Zen, there's so many phrases. Again, one Zen phrase, the most dangerous thing in the world is to think that you can understand something. And I love this from Susan Murphy, who again is a Zen teacher, and she's written in a wonderful book. She talks about the Tao Te Ching speaks of people of old as being good without knowing that they were good, and being just without knowing that they were just. When we stop supposing that this or that and freely become what we actually are, we leave a generous room for others to be exactly what they are. To be good without knowing that we are good. Now that is really, again, the kind of humility that I'm talking about. And the third thing is love or compassion. And I love Bell Hooks, who writes a lot about love. And she says, a commitment to spiritual life necessarily means we embrace the eternal principle that love is all, everything, our true destiny. Despite overwhelming pressure to conform to the culture of lovelessness, we still seek to know love. That seeking is itself a manifestation of divine spirit. And she argues that love is really the primary way to end domination and oppression. Through love, and again, the Dalai Lama talks about that we see human beings want happiness and well-being and not to suffer. That's how we can identify with all, not only human beings, but all beings do not want to suffer. So that creates a natural sense of compassion and love for all beings. And Gandhi and King constantly talked about love. The love was, in fact, they saw it as the center of the cosmos, which actually animates the cosmos. And Dante, of course, at the end of the Divine Comedy, talks about it's the love that moves the sun and the other stars. Really, that sense of the empowerment of love. And of course, the thing about Gandhi and King and Mandela is that they resisted making whoever was their opponent, making them into an object, always keeping them as a subject. And of course, Mandela, one of the ways that he got through prison, 27 years of prison, was to feel some kind of love for the guards. And when he set up the Reconciliation Commission in South Africa, when he became president, he put on the Reconciliation Commission the wardens who were the wardens of his prison. Now that is forgiveness. That is forgiveness. And unfortunately, particularly more, I think, in the United States, the political discourse, Paul Krugman, who writes for the New York Times, he wrote an essay called The Big Hate. And it took this assassination attempt of this congressman in Arizona to kind of quiet people down. I mean, what does it take to have a more civil society than have to have somebody shot? Now that is really a wake-up call for us in supposedly a civilized world. Finally, in terms of education, Dogen Panlap Rinpoche, he writes, "The development of compassion is what's most missing from schools today. Perhaps it is our teachers that are not compassionate, or maybe it's the students that are not compassionate. But it's clear something is wrong. We're not learning properly. I feel that we're not learning properly because we're not open to each other. Compassion, however, is what opens the heart.